We begin in the Middle East, where the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged to punish Iran for its missile attack on Israel, saying Iran would pay for its attack across the country on Tuesday. Israelis were told to take refuge in bomb shelters as explosions lit up the night sky. Iran warned that it would hit all of Israel's infrastructure if it retaliated. Well, the Israeli Defense Forces said that around 180 missiles were launched towards Israel around 5:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday. They were fired across huge areas of Israel, including its largest city, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem. These pictures from Iranian state media show the ballistic missiles being launched from military sites. Tehran said the attacks were in retaliation for the killings of senior militant leaders, including the Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. Well, Israel has responded by continuing its aerial assault of Beirut's southern suburbs. These live pictures of the Lebanese capital coming into us now. The IDF said it had targeted a number of Hezbollah sites. Meanwhile, the Iranian-backed militant group says it's clashed with Israeli troops in the southern Lebanese town of Edessa. In a new development, the Israel Defense Forces say they're sending another military division, including infantry and armoured units, to join its ground operation in southern Lebanon. Well, both the US and the UK were involved in helping to protect Israel from yesterday's missile attacks. Our correspondent John Donison had to seek shelter when the missiles were fired. He's in Jerusalem and sent this report.
Israel was warned it was coming. But this was Iran's revenge. Almost 200 ballistic missiles raining in across the country.
Oh God. Okay guys, we gotta get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here.
As people ran for shelter, with the Iranian missiles travelling some 2,000 kilometres in only around 12 minutes, Israel's defence system was at full stretch. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran would pay a terrible price.
Iran made a big mistake tonight, and it will pay for it. The regime in Iran does not understand our determination to defend ourselves and our determination to retaliate against our enemies. We will stand by the rule we established. Whoever attacks us, we will attack them.
This restaurant in Tel Aviv took a direct hit, and this was a school in central Israel. The US said it helped in shooting down some of the missiles. Its intelligence agencies had alerted Israel to an imminent attack. And last night, President Biden said they were fully supportive of Israel.
Based on what we know now, the attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. And this is testament to Israeli military capability and U.S. military. It's also a testament to intensive planning between the United States and Israel to anticipate and defend against the brazen attack we expected. Make no mistake, the United States is fully supportive of Israel.
In Gaza last night, as Iran pounded Israel, there were celebrations, as there were in the Iranian capital too. Iran had vowed vengeance after Israel assassinated Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Iranian-backed Lebanese militia Hezbollah, on Friday. And Iran killed the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, on Iranian soil back in July. For months now, diplomats have tried to stop the year-long war in Gaza from engulfing the region. They've failed, and after last night's unprecedented Iranian attacks, Israel is expected to hit back hard. John Donison, BBC News, Jerusalem.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said Iran is risking setting the entire region on fire. Mr. Scholz said this must be prevented at all costs and called on Iran and Hezbollah to immediately end their attacks on Israel. Well, the UK's Ministry of Defence has confirmed that British forces, in their words, played a part in attempts to prevent further escalation in the Middle East. No operational details were given, but the BBC understands that it means UK fighter jets were involved, as they were in April when Iran last attacked Israel with missiles. Here's the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
We stand with Israel and we recognise her right to self-defence in the face of this aggression. Iran must stop these attacks, together with its proxies like Hezbollah. Iran has menaced the Middle East for far too long. Chaos and destruction brought not just to Israel, but to the people they live amongst in Lebanon and beyond. Make no mistake, Britain stands full square against such violence. We support Israel's reasonable demand for the security of its people.
We can speak now to former director of the CIA, General David Petraeus. General Petraeus led Allied forces in Iraq during the surge of 2007 to 2008 and in Afghanistan in 2010 to 2011 before directing the CIA. General Petraeus, thank you very much for joining us here on BBC News. How surprised are you that Iran directly attacked Israel when many commentators were saying in the lead up to yesterday that it would be done via proxies?
I was not surprised. The blows against Hezbollah in Lebanon were very substantial. This was not just a decapitation, including its leader for decades, Hassan Nasrallah. It was a decimation of the senior leadership and of their command, control, and communications means. And then, of course, followed up with attacks on over 1,500 sites, extending well beyond southern Lebanon into the Bekaa and also into Syria. I think Iran felt that it had to respond. The hardliners clearly prevailed over those, including the new president, who perhaps might have cautioned a bit of restraint. And now I think that Israel is going to have to respond in kind. This time will not be a single missile into an airbase in Isfahan that, by the way, penetrated the Russian-provided air defenses there. This time, I think it will be against substantial military sites in Iran to show what they can do after showing that the Iranian attack was really quite ineffectual.
Wasn't that deliberate, though, that the 180 missiles were told fired by Iran into Israel, majority of them intercepted? How serious was Iran, though, rather than just sending a message?
Well, I think it was a very serious attack. It was a serious message. They felt they had to respond, and I'm sure that they intended to do damage. They were targeting military bases in Israel, 3 air bases and a number of other sites. Again, virtually every one of those that mattered was knocked down. The only casualty, ironically, was a Palestinian in the West Bank. And then there were 2 Israelis slightly wounded by shrapnel. So again, the U.S.-led coalition and the Israeli layered defense did their job, prevented any real damage from a very substantial strike of ballistic missiles. And now Iran is going to see what it is that Israel can do. And I suspect that they will prove much less effective at knocking down everything that heads their way.
How surprised should Israel be that Iran responded in this way? After all, you've just explained just how devastating the impact on Hezbollah has been by the Israelis.
I don't think the Israelis were surprised. I think there was a recognition that there was a debate going on within Tehran. As is often the case, the hardliners win out when it comes to foreign policy issues like this. And so I think they were ready. They were waiting, as was the U.S.-led coalition, which of course includes British aircraft, as you noted.
How important has the US involvement, and the UK as well, for that matter, but from the United States perspective, how much soul searching, if you like, how hard would it have been for the United States to intervene and to support Israel in the way they did yesterday?
I don't think there's any soul searching at all when it comes to helping Israel defend itself, which is exactly what was done and what President Biden noted was the intent of the U.S.
What's your understanding of the nature, the extent of U.S. involvement and how effective it was?
In this case, I don't know the numbers. The last time we know that the U.S. and coalition forces knocked down well over 100 of the 330 ballistic and cruise missiles and drones that were sent from Iranian soil for the first time against Israel. I haven't seen those numbers in this case, but I suspect, again, it was a fairly reasonable number, and it helps Israel a great deal because there is always the concern that even with a sophisticated air and ballistic missile defense system such as Israel has and has demonstrated repeatedly, that it can get overwhelmed. That clearly was not the case here, and I'm sure the U.S. and allied assistance was very helpful in that regard.
What are your concerns for what comes next? Israel has said that Iran will pay for what it did yesterday. We keep talking about whether this is going to become a wider regional conflict. Surely we've crossed that line now, haven't we?
Well, we have crossed that line, but I guess the real question is, will any of this actually matter to the global economy? And the truth is, unless energy infrastructure is attacked, this will not have a real measurable impact. There will be a bit of a price, a security premium on Brent crude for a period of time until the markets recognize that probably there will be no interdiction in the flow of crude, natural gas, and distillates from the Gulf, as has been the case all along. So this is very concerning in the security sense. It's very concerning in the fact that it could escalate. But I think Iran is about out of options, frankly. It's encouraged all of its proxies, and those proxies have been hammered in return. What has been done to Hezbollah is very, very substantial. It will take them years to recover from this. And the fact is, right now, they're incapable of mounting a coordinated large-scale response to Israel because, in fact, they don't have a means of communicating other than presumably good old-fashioned cable telephone. And I suspect they have suspicions about the effectiveness of that. Keep in mind that they had to get off their cell phones. They went to pagers, which they thought were going to be the device that would enable them to communicate without being intercepted or geolocated. And they literally blew up thousands of leaders. And of course, the most senior, they're the ones that get the devices. Of course, then the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, and even the walkie-talkies, which was the next recourse, those were blown up as well. So Hezbollah is very, very much diminished. As I said, this is a decimation of their leadership and of their ability to conduct command, control, and communications. It's going to take them quite a time to recover from that. And then on top of that, of course, the Israeli strikes against 1,500 of the different locations in which they stored missiles, rockets, drones, and launched them, and so on.
How careful, though, does Israel need to be in attacking Iran directly, given that there are nuclear facilities within the country and there's a potential to hit fissile material?
I think they'll be quite careful in that regard. I think that the targets likely will be military in nature. Some of those, to be sure, are not that far from nuclear sites. The reason they went to Esfahan last time in the airbase was because there are 3 nuclear sites in the greater Esfahan area. I think they wanted to demonstrate what they could do. Iran is going to see that again now, I suspect, and there will be considerable damage in this particular case. I don't know that Iran has any additional recourse, though, at this time, not in the short term at the very least.
General David Petraeus, thank you very much for talking to us here on BBC News.
Good to be with you. Thank you.